Hey everybody, welcome to the Song Revolution podcast, brought to you by Nashville Christian Songwriters. Nashville Christian Songwriters exists to empower Christian songwriters worldwide. I'm Jon Chisum, and this podcast exists to bring you valuable songwriting insights, inspiration, interviews, and just all around good fun with some of the greatest songwriters, producers, arrangers, artists, and creatives, and beyond. You can find out a whole lot more about us at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. Hey everybody, Jon Chisum here for the Song Revolution podcast, and I'm so excited today. I have one of probably the most influential worship writers over the last 15 or so years, Jared Anderson, a big part of New Life Fellowship out in Colorado Springs, worked with Desperation Band, which you probably know if you followed worship at all. The Desperation Band, so powerful, so influential, hundreds of thousands of people around the world, maybe millions, have been so blessed and followed their work. Cohorts with Glenn Packiam, Jon Egan, just great people who have made such a fine contribution to the worship world. So I am so thankful to have Jared on the show today. Jared, welcome.
Thanks, man. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, so we're doing this via Zoom link, which is kind of my first time to do this. It's kind of like Skype. If you don't know Skype or Zoom, it's like Skype. But Jared he's in this beautiful chair in his little house out in Colorado Springs, and I'm in my home office here in Brentwood, Tennessee. So crossing a couple thousand miles here. So how are things going out in Colorado?
Man, it's awesome. We are just the leaves are starting to change on the aspens, and so the mountains are beautiful, and the school semester is in full swing, and we're celebrating my son's birthday this weekend. So,
how old is he?
He's 13. Yeah.
And you have, if I remember reading correctly, you have had 4 children naturally, and then adopted 2 from Haiti. Is that correct?
Yeah. They've been with us. Last weekend was 3 years that they've been with us now. So yeah, they're doing amazing, and life is full.
I bet it is. So, what are their age ranges?
So our oldest is 13 and the youngest is 5. So this is the first fall where they're all in school all day long, which is crazy.
That's kind of like your first taste of empty nest, right?
It is. Like the light is beginning to shine.
So your wife drops them off at school, comes home and collapses, and is thankful for this new season.
We both just light up cigarettes and talk about the good old days.
Get the scotch out, and I'm going to have to edit this out of my Christian podcast.
Nice.
Too
At least it's just cigarettes in Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So that's a whole other topic we should avoid. I don't know. For those who might be sensitive. But so you, I read somewhere, because I like to read up on my guest. I like to, and even though you and I have been acquainted through the years, of course, known your work, but we haven't been really, really close friends. So I have to go back and kind of dig out and kind of see what life is like for these people I'm going to be interviewing. And so if my memory serves me, you go out and get eggs out of the chicken coop every morning, and are you kind of on a farm kind of a deal, or just
about 11 acres? And we don't have any horses. There's some behind us on separate property, but we're doing a little bit of the country.
Nice. That's nice. Well, I think probably it's better to just be able to look at horses than have to take care of them, right?
This is so true. So true. Yeah. No aspirations at the moment.
Too fun. That's great. Yeah, well, the Springs is such a beautiful place anyway. Love it out there, Manitou Springs and Woodland Park and that area. Well, aside from Colorado, Rocky Mountain High stuff, let's get kind of into the meat of what we're here to talk about, which really is your life as a worship leader, a songwriter who's had a tremendous impact, still having a great impact. Maybe start a little bit earlier in your life and tell us kind of how you even got into this.
Sure. I went to college. I started taking piano when I was 8. I joined the church choir when I was 13. I think I wrote my first song when I was 15. I have one significantly older half brother who, so I was kind of an only child in the middle school, high school years, and music became my companion. And, so I went off to college. I studied classical music, and you're in the practice room forever, and it's super isolating, and you're really bored. And
and that was ORU, and you're more piano based than guitar, right?
Yeah. You get slightly suicidal, and you start thinking, what am I doing? And but you're studying this like magnificent works that are just astounding. And so I just started kind of responding to them in my own way, and kind of, it's like cheap therapy, writing songs. And I really was concerned with who I was talking to. I needed to talk, and I needed to express myself. And I grew up very Christian, and we've pretty much got everything explained. We know like the work of the Holy Spirit. We've got sin pretty well, and we know what raising kids should look like, relationships should look like, business should look like, government should look like. So it's kind of all the world I grew up in felt like it had itself together. And yet there were places in my soul that were yet to be uncovered. And poetry really felt like it went there for me. So it became much more of like, actually the first record that I bought was Counting Crows, August and Everything After. That was a tape at the time in my car. And if you listen to it straight for 3 or 4 months, you get really depressed. But finally, someone was talking about something where I felt it, but I couldn't tell you what was happening in the story. And that drew me in pretty hard. And so the actual statistics mattered less and less. The outcomes, the kind of the prescription. But the process and the imagery and the vibe started to matter a ton to me, to start to take shape. And I think classical music is a great kind of foundation for that, because it's just the relationships of the notes to each other. If you start in Baroque music, it's not here's our big melody and there's a harmony to support it and a rhythm to define it. Counterpoint is the relationship, the interweaving, the texture of note against note. And that's what songwriting became to me. It was the palette of words against the rhythm, and that became super valuable. I was scared out of my wits to ever play it for anyone, to ever share it with anyone. I was sure people didn't get it. I didn't know if I got it. I didn't know what I was saying. So the greatest song I've ever written in that, to me, period, is called Neptune's Taming of the Seahorse. And it's a stream of conscious, silly, philosophical, meandering. And that's kind of what started captivating my heart. And so I tried out for this. I worked up the courage. I tried out for this Battle of the Bands. I got together the night before with an upright bass player and a guy like on a djembe and a hi-hat. And I played 2 songs, and in between the 2 songs, I got up with an accounting textbook, and I just opened the book and I read some random definition, and I just shut the book and went and played the second song. And we won. It was completely stupid, but it was hilarious. It was like, I don't care. I don't have anything to surprise you with or wow you with. I don't know, I'm just trying it out. So I started playing in coffee houses and digging through. I was pretty sheltered as a kid, so I only knew Keith Green and Sandy Patty and Lornell Harris and Michael W. Smith and Second Chapter of Acts. And so I started went and bought the box set of Led Zeppelin and started digging into Fleetwood Mac and Stone Temple Pilots and REM and, just Bob Dylan and Roy Orbison, and just figuring it out, just crawling through the library, the canon of popular music. And, so I'd pull stuff out and do Oasis songs and John Denver songs, and it was exploratory for me. So in the midst of this, I leave college, and my worship pastor, Ross Parsley, he said, Glenn is here. It's my senior year of school. Glenn is here. He's doing the year called apprenticeship, where they pay you $1,200 a month and put you up with a family and, to live with, and then you work full time. So, and it's kind of like a trial year. We'll pour into you, kind of see if you could maybe be a staff member, yada, yada. So it's like, Glenn's doing it this year. I'd love for you to come do it next year. It's my senior year of school. I'm like, man, I don't know. I'm kind of had it up to here. I'm in ORU. I go to church every day. I'm like, I don't know if I could do any more. So I told him no. And over the course of that year, everything I tried to kind of, figure out and make happen for myself just didn't happen. So I came back. He's like, man, what do you think? I really want you to come. I was like, well, it's a year. Fine. I'll help you, whatever, make copies and get coffee. And so he took me on. I'm living with my parents. And I'm playing for all these prayer meetings. I'm just playing for prayer meetings and playing keys for Sunday services and staff meetings. And we did a thing called noon worship all the staff, we had enough people on staff to make a band, and the World Prayer Center was open all the time. So at noon, from noon to 1, we'd go in on Fridays, and all of us that led, Ross would start, and then we just trade songs, and you just do whatever song you want, and no rehearsal, no charts, everything's got to be kind of common. And if no one knows the song, then you play it by yourself, And so this just became kind of the palette from which I started responding. And I remember being at a staff retreat. We're up at so the church is growing quickly, like, they're stacking up services and the staff is growing. And so we go up for a staff retreat to a hotel in Denver, and we're just having like a morning worship time. And Darren, one of the guitar players, is playing this progression of the song that they had just written. And I just grab a notebook and write this song called Rescue, like 20 minutes. And the worship time gets over, and I'm like, man, I think I just like wrote this song. And it really was like, God, I do not want to be here. I really don't care about, I grew up in this. I don't want to do this anymore. This is what my parents love, and I want to do something else. And yet I start writing these songs, and then the Desperation Conference forms and the record comes out, and that song like takes off. I remember getting I was just married, and I got a check for $500, and I was just like, what? Oh, like, what just happened to me? This is crazy. Cause I was, this is the same process that I would like grab a notebook and start writing about the seahorse, and now I don't know what I did. And the same thing, it was during that first year that I was living with my parents, and I stumbled on this little chord progression. They had this piano up in the loft where I would just practice at night. And of course, I've graduated from college. I'm living back at home with my parents, and it's kind of depressing. And you're like, I don't know where all this is going. But I stumble on this progression and this just 2 lines, like, you dance over me while I'm unaware. And it becomes this song of, Lord, I'm amazed by you. And it's just like, okay, I believe there's something going on behind my back that's good. That's good. Like, I receive that goodness that I can't even acknowledge it with my eyes. I don't see it, but I just believe you. I believe you. I have a hunch about who you are, that I'm going to go off the hunch. And it just began to grow and grow and grow. And meanwhile, but also the conflict grew as well, of like, people are going to think that I know what I'm doing. And the truth is that no one knows what the heck they are doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. And I seriously, nobody knows what they're doing. So, then people like, I'm 24. I don't know anything. I shouldn't be trusted with much. And I'm kind of like golden boy, I'm kind of a child of this church that's grown really big, and but inside I'm really quite lost of like, I'm not sure why I'm doing this. And so this tension still, this plays out to, in ministry. Of course, there's this ministry becomes like the grand parade of, we're using our talents, and sometimes we're not always aware of what's happening to us, what we're engaging ourselves in, and how we are perhaps repeating certain patterns that were imprinted on us early on. And so this is a, and I know I'm realizing I'm talking a ton here, but
you're doing great, buddy. And thank you for the honesty. It's the depth of what you're saying, I think, is very comforting for a lot of us who, we like to pretend that we know what we're doing and we have a clue, but just your admission of that here, I think is very reassuring to a lot of people. I do want to just name, if you can, don't lose your thought, but your catalog, I looked you up on CCLI, and 92 songs just right there, and that probably doesn't have your People of Troy catalog in there, but Great I Am, Amazed, Rescue, Hear Us from Heaven, Glorified, Almighty, which Tomlin did, and on and on and on. And I realized when I was starting to prepare for this how impacted, of course I've loved your songs, of course, Great I Am, Amazed, especially, but you've had, for all of your angst, which, keep going with all that. But for all of that, dude, I mean, there was something good happening behind you. There is that impetus of the Holy Spirit that the rest of us certainly have benefited from. So thank you for that. I just wanted to mention a few of those songs in case people weren't quite aware. And there are more, but just that's kind of like at the top. And
yeah. And it's, I think now, like, going deeper into the industry of, kind of the publisher's journey, the label's journey. I was kind of a freak, because definitely, like, the country world or pop world, and now all in the worship world for sure, nobody's writing by themselves. No one. Everyone's co-writing. Everyone's, kind of getting the all-star team together and seeing what they can make happen. And, so, yeah, there was some, I don't know, this is like way out of the league, but like, this is way beyond me in my story. But I remember hearing about, like, Bob Dylan interacting with U2. And Bob Dylan was like, well, at least you have a band. Like, at least you're, like, enduring all of this, like, with 3 other people, so, and I'm not even putting on that scale, but, like, it's just for microscopically. So yeah, there's been like, there's been like a loneliness and a sadness that has come along with, there's been a suffering along with the resurrection. Like, you don't get resurrection without death. Like, the name of the game is death and resurrection. It's the joy and the suffering that come from the same place. And I don't understand that, but I know it to be true. And I believe it to be true. That you will encounter should you choose to engage it. And so I'm not giving you a license to, like, make yourself a whipping post, because we don't need any more of those self-hurting individuals. That's not what we're here for, gluttons for punishment. But as I'm looking back, there was definitely, there was a cost to inside the joy and kind of wonder, surprise the surprise of it all. But the truth is, like, nobody can call it. When you're in a room writing a song, you don't know what you're doing. You're just trying to write the story. You're trying to find the inner ache, the longing, that desire that you want to reach for, that you have hope for, that seems just beyond you, but within the grasp of your imagination and maybe not of your hand. And so that's the continual. But as you're doing this, you are writing people permission slips to do this with their lives. So of the stuff that works has a way of sending an invitation to people to say, reach for more, to say, fill up your lungs all the way and let it out because you deserve to be heard. It gives people this hope and fulfillment that their lives are more than, just a bank account and a schedule. And so that's powerful, but you have to go there yourself. Like that's the invitation. So that's what I'm trying to keep after that, that lifestyle.
Well, let me go back to something, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Because you've said a lot. That's a lot of great stuff there, Jared. So here you are, an ORU grad with a pretty serious musical background. You have the actual technical side of things in the classical, jazz world, keyboards, piano. You understand. You mentioned counterpoint earlier. There are probably a lot of people listening that might not even know what that is, because a lot of people that come into the especially worship songwriting these days, they're lucky if they play a couple of chords on the guitar or whatever. So it's like, I don't want to call it dumbed down, but in some ways, considering where you've come from, it is, right? And so here you are with all this massive amount of technical ability, and you're not pursuing it like, oh my gosh, I have to be, this amazing worship writer and artist. And so you go into this thing with all this conflict in your mind and your heart and your life, and yet it seems to the outward eye, it would seem like, hey, well, God's pushing this thing along and this is just all happening miraculously. And I'm sure it is to some extent, but you had a whole bunch of knowledge. You knew music inside and out, right? And so a lot of times I'm dealing with people that they're not really skilled musicians. And so for you to write Rescue in 20 minutes, they'll be like, see, God dropped that song on you. See, all you need is the passion of the Holy Spirit, right? And so I combat that all the time because people don't understand why they need to learn the craft of songwriting. And I know in a little while we're going to be talking about your event coming up with the co-writing community, where you get people together and you really explore that craft and what that happens to be. And that's what I do all the time too. But talk to me a little bit about that, because I do appreciate the depth and everything you were going for, but I'd like to at least touch on that in your songwriting process, because you're not a novice. You were not a novice when you received Rescue, right? So talk to me a little bit about the value of knowing craft, and then maybe a little bit about how your songwriting process works. And if that leads us back into some of the angst, that's cool too. I love it. So
that's cool. We all need like a coach, to kind of keep pushing us if we want to grow. And you kind of have to say, like, what is it that I'm hoping to accomplish? Like, what is it that's turning my crank about this? Like, is it the stage? Is it being in front of people? Is it performing? Or is it making money? Or what is it that I love about what I see in someone else, maybe? Or so I think for me, I loved music and I loved language, like read a bunch of literature and studied and I love getting blown away. I love stuff that challenges my ear and hurts. It's like a deep tissue massage for your brain, of like, oh my gosh, you're about to pin me to the wall. You are twisting my muscle. Like I'm going to break. And yet you pay these people money to do this to you. So the kind of put the hurt on. So yeah, maybe I don't know what that is. If I'm just a sucker for adventure or punishment or that kind of thing. But yeah, like what is it that I like want to get deep into? And for songwriting, I like love the process. You've got to love the process more than the product. If you're gonna like, if it's gonna bum you out when this song, doesn't get cut, or like if you need to see results in 3 months, like don't do this, like do something else, like go do CrossFit or something. But this is like diving into story. I don't know. I just early on, I was struck with the guys that like you study in music history. Buxtehude was this contemporary of Bach, and Bach would go see him play. He was an organist, and he crushed everybody as an organist. But he really didn't write. He wrote some things, but it really didn't. It wasn't outside the box enough. It was kind of still in the box. And Mozart and Salieri, and Mozart, he had the magic. Like it was imaginative, and Salieri kind of. He painted in the lines, and we know one and we don't know the other. So it is this kind of pulling it beyond what it should be, stretching the limit. So yeah, it was difficult. The idea of like, okay, I enjoy all this kind of pointy headed stuff, and I'm going to write like 3-chord sing-along songs. Like, I don't know, man. That's, I don't know if I can get excited about that. But what it has done is, and this is where I want to kind of push people, maybe the purpose of all this music is to connect people with the story and tell the narrative. And so that, like, when I came on staff at the church, I was really super judgmental. I was such a jerk and super just kind of arrogant and kind of didn't care. And I just saw myself above, and really it so humbled me to know, like, man, I have nothing on anybody. Like, I'm just as much in my own need, my own inner devastation, that I need the Lord. I need someone to witness the process that I'm in. So I need somebody to witness the pain. I need a group to belong to. I need to watch the miracle of you, not in your talents, but in your life, what's unique about your design and how it's being woven into something beautiful. Like, that's what I need to watch. That's what my eyes need to be tuned for. My ears need to be tuned for, is the holiness and the beauty of creation. And we are his creation. And so, this has got to take shape, and this has really nothing to do with what we get up and do on Sunday morning. It is like an aftertaste of the miracle that's happening in people's lives every day. And those are the things that are waiting to be uncovered. And that's what keeps you diving in, is like, there's a story here. There's a story here. Like, the people of Israel didn't sing until they were through the Red Sea. And when they got through the Red Sea, they were like, oh my gosh, we have just had a major, we've never seen this before. Like, how are we going to respond? We have to sing about this. We have to respond to this somehow. And that's what should be happening in our congregations, in our community. You give voice to people. One of my favorite songs that I've written this year is in response to a woman who took her own life, who was a mom in our congregation who, I went to youth group with her daughter, and she was a pinnacle. She was just like such a rep for the gospel and for the beauty of Jesus. And she was gone. She started struggling in September, and in January she was gone. And it blew my mind how that could happen.
Wow.
And yet I had to respond to it. This was my soul was undone. I had to respond. And so I wrote out of that. I said, I'm coming to this with I have no answers. I just have to come. And that is the place where you must respond. And so I think a lot of like, oh, well, what are we going to write? And is it going to really match up to Good Father? And is it going to, what is everyone going to think of this? I don't know. It just doesn't. I've tried that before, and it just doesn't produce the results for me. I usually write garbage when I sit down and I'm like, okay, time to write a chart topper. How can we impress the newsboys and get on their next record? I don't know. It's just,
that's great.
It just fades fast,
So writing and the whole creative process just has to be more heart-driven and organic for you, and cathartic more, even in the positive praise sense, because catharsis isn't necessarily it's not necessarily expressing bad things, right?
Yeah, I think, no, it's not expressing, because you need to come away with something that you would actually say, or else it's a little fake. At least something that you can be proud of, that holds up for itself. I don't think you always have to be like, this isn't every song is your soul's desire, but I don't mind coming to the task of writing for the newsboys and saying, well, we need an up song, we need this, or we need that. Because that's kind of the architecture that you can bring the dance to. So architecture being like structure, form, dance being like the wind or the inspiration or the nuance or the fresh air for this structure, kind of like your bones and your flesh. So I don't want to pull everybody away from like the task of sitting down and writing, because I still do that. I still make an appointment. We're going to write at 10. We're going to finish at 2, and we're going to come up with a song. And so, I believe in that. It works. You can do it. You should do it. It's part of the task. But to get inside the story and inside the head, inside the narrative, and identify, that's where the juice is for me as a writer.
So you mentioned the very tragic suicide of this lady in your congregation. And so you were bringing a lot of emotion, a story. You were bringing, that experience and responding to that. How did that particular song turn out? What was? Can you share a little bit of that at all? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean, how did you? What did it become? What did that become as a song?
It became my favorite thing I've written all year, for sure. I don't know how, at what point it will release, or what will be. I don't know what will be done with it as of now, but it's something I keep coming back to, that I'll never forget it. And if you can't forget it, chances are someone else might not be able to forget it too. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. But did the heaviness of that turn into, like in the Psalms, we tend to avoid lament, and, 60% of the Psalms are, immense or imprecatory, calling down fire on the enemies of God or whatever. But generally, I don't know the percentage, but generally by the end of the Psalm, but I will trust in your unfailing love, or, there's some kind of turn, not always, but very often there's a turn. So did that song take a turn like that, from the tragic to something that was at all hopeful, or was it more of a...
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a hopeful song, and it's good tears. I think this is interesting. I was listening to a podcast, and they said by the year 2030, the World Health Organization predicts that the leading cause of disease worldwide will be depression. So I think as the body of Christ, we have we need to learn how to grieve and give sorrow its place. I think that's what made, Passion of the Christ so powerful, is that it really took death for what it is, and didn't try to minimize death so quickly. We don't want to freak people out, so we just we jump too quickly. And but identifying and really beginning to name the harm opens the door for healing. And one of the most powerful books I've read recently is book by Alice Miller called The Drama of the Gifted Child. And the book, the opening line, talks about in the therapy world that they've found the greatest defense against mental illness is the emotional discovery of the truth about your unique childhood. And anytime we say oh yeah, I had a good childhood, no way. Nobody has just a good childhood. No one. Because all of us experience pain, and all of that pain had a beginning. And if we don't know the beginning, we don't even know the genesis of our own story. If we had a Bible that opened up with Exodus 1, we'd be screwed. We have to have Genesis 1. We have to know the beginning of the story. But the truth is, most of us don't know the beginning of our own story. And so I think a huge task for us now, just in the light of where our world is to begin to identify the genesis of our own pain, that we might be healed. And that is what we can bring to the culture for restoration. I think that's one of maybe the spear of the gospel at the moment. So, and I think songwriting is a powerful tool for that. So, I don't know. To me, there's just a big invitation to community, develop a language where people can identify and grieve and then heal.
Wow. That's deep and awesome, man. That's great. It's truth, very profound and provocative, I think, in a very righteous way, for where we are, because it's so easy to get sugar coated, candy coated in what we're doing, So,
it's so painful. The boxes that we just try to like live in, and the charts and all the stuff we're trying to accomplish is like, gets really nauseating. But
yeah. I love your authenticity, dude. That's fantastic. And in my world, where I'm trying to encourage aspiring songwriters, it's like their eyes are so often on all the things that you've experienced. And so and would be, we're all amazed and blessed, of course, but, they would kill to have that, and here you are, and it's like, wow.
And it's done. I can tell you it's never enough, man. It's just never enough. I love that, was a Jim Carrey quote. I wish everyone could grow up and be famous and rich and have all their dreams come true, so that they could realize it's not enough.
Yeah, for real.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the backside of that is, don't lower your expectations. Like, don't settle for garbage or average, or like expect more. I think is like, we grow older and we get disappointments, and we go, well, this is where other people see me, so I should just like park it here and like make, maybe this is as good as it gets. I want to preach like pretty hard against that. I think that's not the gospel. I think that's complete like cynicism and idolatry, and you just slip into morality and getting as good as it gets. I think that's garbage. I think your soul and your heart, as long as you have breath in your lungs, your soul is alive, and whatever makes your soul sing is worth pursuing. And you should go till you can't go. But those comparisons of success is what I want to demolish. Whatever makes your heart sing is what I want to cheer. But the comparative game will wear you out and kill you.
Yeah, man, that's the word. That is a great word. I've personally struggled with that all my life. I wanted to be Stephen Curtis Chapman for a long time, but oh well, that didn't work out for me so much.
I'm with you, man.
I've still got good hair. I've got the good hair for it, but so. Well, take us a little bit into your discography, because as I was kind of looking back at where you are, no pun on Where I Am Right Now EP, but
sure,
that's the most recent thing, right?
Yeah.
And okay, so talk to us a little bit about, just briefly, I mean, that's the most recent thing. Then you had the Narrow Road thing before that. My favorite, Live from My Church. Love that one a lot. So tell us about that. And then briefly, we've just got to touch on People of Troy. I mean, I've got to bring that up a little bit. You referred to it earlier, but talk a little bit about your records.
First, I'm going to go to People of Troy quick. I started in college. The first time I signed up for this talent show for Christmas. And I went and set up my keyboard, and my roommate was like, "Where's your lamp?" Because in my room, I had my keyboard set up right next to my bed, and I had this lamp on there. It was a wooden thing. It's kind of cool. But I said, "Well, it's up in the room." He's like, No. You don't play without your lamp. You don't play without your lamp. So he ran up the dorm to my room, brought the lamp down. He plugged it in. He turned it on. He's like, "Now you can play." That's my junior year of college. And so ever since that, all the stuff that is just kind of the singer-songwriter. Some people say it sounds like Ben Folds, kind of quirky pop thing. I call it lamp music. And I've done 3 records, and they each have this hand drawing of a lamp on it. So that's how you can identify it. But they're not like the People of Troy record. They're all risky. I had this coffee shop that I loved, and he would close every day at 5. And so I asked him, bro, if I move my piano in here and put it against the wall, when you close, could we move all the furniture and record all night? And then we'll put it all back in the morning. And so we did that for a week and made that record. The record before that was called 2 Days in the Same Place. My wife was out of town with the kids, and I got a hankering and moved all the furniture, made a record in 2 days. And, it's kind of, they're stupid. It's not wise, but it was adventurous. But so those are those records. When I started with Integrity and Desperation, I was getting cuts on different people's records. People be like, where can we hear your music? I'd say, well, what song do you want to hear? And I'll point you to that record. I went to Nashville, worked with a producer on a couple radio tracks, and he's like, man, if you ever want to do something, let me know. So I kind of started to engage. Well, that led to like doing a record with Pete Kipley, who's like crazy and super successful. And so I did a couple records that sounded a little bit more like the producer than they sounded like me, which is just what you have to go through in the process of figuring out how to be an artist, because I don't produce myself. And then Live from My Church was kind of the response to those first 2 records, which was like, we're going to go live. We're going to go raw. So that was like, it's going to sound like what we'd actually do. And then The Narrow Road was like, oh, but we always miss out on radio because it's not a studio thing. So let's try something studio. Anyways, whatever. Where I am right now is more of a centricity music thing. They're really trying it for the radio, the radio is not bad. It's fun when you can get like a whole team of people that all feel like they have something in their hand that they can run with. That's a cool feeling. Worked with Seth Mosley, who's brilliant. And so none of my records have sold very well at all. Some of my songs have done well, so I'm super grateful. But I think you just keep going, and with whatever's in your hand, do whatever like feels right. You hopefully get some coachings and people that have been down the road of where you're trying to go, get a little bit of perspective. So it's like build a team and get a plan. That's kind of the 2 pillars I keep coming back to.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I appreciate you sharing that. And there's great stuff there on both sides, the produced out versus the live worship stuff. I love it all. So congratulations on just, a great catalog. And we're all thankful for whatever sales we get, however small, right? And your songs, of course, have just so impacted the world. Well, listen, as we sort of bring this to a landing place, I'd like for you to talk to us a little bit about your upcoming event. Is it February 2018? I remember, and the co-writing community. So talk to us a little bit about that. And then as we end, I really want to get a little bit of encouragement for the listeners and for, what you might say to aspiring songwriters.
Sure. Co-write kind of started, when our church started making projects, like we never wrote songs together. Everyone was too scared for that and didn't really know how to okay, we're going to get in a room and write a song. No one's process really worked like that. So that's more of an industry thing. So when a publisher started inviting me into that, it was a real twist. but I saw a lot of my worship leader friends and guys at churches making great records, but they'd never done the co-writing thing. So I kind of was like, man, I would love to do an event where we get together and write songs and then play the songs we wrote like that night. So, and not like go and hear a bunch of content from people who are successful, but like go and do it, like go practice, go like feel the pain. So that's what this kind of is in going through, I kind of come back to like, we are going to need training. We are going to need tools, but we're also going to need practice. And so that's kind of the pillars of the co-write retreat. And it's for songwriters to like meet one another, get in a room, produce a song, and then share it for people, hopefully all in the same, 3 days.
And I loved reading about it on jaredanderson.com. And I love the fact, that you didn't seem to be age discriminatory at all. And, so I love that. It's kind of like anybody's welcome. Is there an application process?
No, it's just registration. Like there isn't, not yet. That's good. That's a good idea.
Well, you never know who you're going to wind up with, dude. I mean, let me warn you.
No, I totally get it. And I've seen it through the 2 of them that we did. People like, they're like, oh my gosh, that guy over there at table 4, he's a great writer. If you can get in the room with that guy, it's awesome. So that totally happens. And then you're like, oh, we kind of want to avoid this person. They talk too much. But the truth is, man, I've been in writing sessions with people who are like veteran writers. They're writing with everybody, and I get jack. And then I've been in the rooms with people that don't have a clue. And we come out with something really beautiful. And I'm like, how did you do that? And they're like, I don't know how we did that.
That's fantastic.
So that is kind of the mystery. And from kids, like high school kids get in and start vibing, forget it. It's so fun. Wow. So yeah, that's part of the adventure, I guess.
So you're not limiting it to a certain level of writer, or
right.
Kind of, or a certain age or background or anything like that. Doesn't sound like.
No.
Cool.
But I mean, if people want to like spend $500 and get themselves to Colorado, I mean, that's a pretty big commitment.
Yeah, it is. So how many people do you expect? And tell us.
You can only hold 50. 50 people is full.
And where's it going to be?
It's at a retreat center, like about 5 minutes from my house. And
okay.
So, yeah, it only holds 50 people. It's beautiful. Looks out the Pikes Peak, and it's a gorgeous setting. And then, it's going to be in the winter, so it's going to be cold. Yeah. But it's a great way to start the year. And I don't know. I think it's going to be inspiring.
I bet. Is the food going to be any good?
Bro, that's where I have to have solid. We'll have a chef, and the food has to be solid. If you have nasty food, it just makes for grumpy riders.
I know, right? I mean, we need nourishment. We need good coffee too. I hope you're into the coffee.
Yeah, oh yeah, man. It's got to be inspiring. Like, otherwise,
none of this Folger stuff, right?
Let's go work at FedEx. Otherwise,
that's great. Well, what words do you have for our? And you can find out about the co-writing community retreat at jaredanderson.com. So go check that out. But what words would you have for our writers? Just something short. What would you have?
Man, be bold and courageous, and and write your life, because that's all you have at the end. Your name is not going to matter on some chart, but you've got your life to write, and that is worthy of being written. So that's the beast. You can live it, you can write it.
Here you go. That's great, buddy. Well, listen, I want to take just a moment to acknowledge you, and acknowledge, even despite the angst and the questions and the confusion and the text that just came in on my computer there, with the dinging bell. Even with all that was going on in your life in those early days, God has used you. He, of course, you know that, but just let me be a voice of someone who has been blessed for years by your songs, by who I knew that you were, and what I saw and felt was authentic. And of course, it has been, and even uber confirmed today in this great conversation that I've loved. But I just want to acknowledge you and thank you on behalf of all those voiceless people that have been able to lift up words of praise and that God inspired in you, whether it was rescued or glorified or almighty or amazed. I mean, just that list alone, Great I Am. Oh my gosh. I mean, every time we get to that bridge, it's like, oh my gosh, here it comes. It's just great. So let me just speak a blessing to you and on you, your family, your ministry, and we're thankful, and we appreciate all that you've gone through, the suffering and the loneliness and the price that you've paid to serve God and serve us through your songwriting. So thank you for that, dude. It's awesome. I've loved our conversation today, and hope we can revisit. And I'm actually thinking about coming out if you'll have me for the co-write.
Dude, all day long, man.
That'd be so fun.
You be the chief.
Yeah, right. But, dude. Well, what's the best way for people to catch up with you? Your site, jaredanderson.com. How else?
Yeah. Co-writecommunity.com is kind of the landing page for the retreat. Instagram and Twitter is just at Jared Anderson. And what else? I guess I have Facebook things. Yeah, we're actually starting up once a month night of worship here in Colorado Springs. That'll actually start this Sunday, which will be pretty fun. And I'm also doing once a month those kind of a lamp show at this place called Third Space Coffee in Colorado Springs. So I don't know, we might be able to get those up on live stream in the next season.
Yeah.
That's still kind of on the dreaming side, but yeah, just trying to like be here, be all present, and kind of build community the old-fashioned way with what's in my hand.
What a concept, huh?
Dang it. It's so hard. That's why people don't bother, because it's stinking hard. Like raising kids, it's like, oh my gosh, bro. It's good. It's the best job you'll ever have, but it's stinking hard.
Yes, it is.
Career is easier.
Jeez. Well, Jared Anderson, man, thanks for being here today. This has been rich. We could have gone another couple hours, dude, but thank you for all you brought to the Song Revolution podcast. And you're just the kind of person, man, to help us all kind of get on board with living and writing our lives. So thanks again, bud. We'll see you next time.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks for being here today for the Song Revolution podcast from Nashville Christian Songwriters. We exist to empower you and to bring you some of the greatest inspiration, insights, and important people from the Christian music world to help you write your best and to be heard as the songwriter that you were born to be. Be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us over on Twitter and Instagram, and connect with us through our Facebook group called Successful Christian Songwriters. Until next time, I'm Jon Chisum, calling you to a Song Revolution.